Alrighty.
You like that Hollywood lingo, speeding?
No.
Speeding.
No, I don't. Rolling. I use rolling.
Rolling.
Yeah.
Rolling.
Yeah.
The first time I heard speeding, my only Hollywood experience was getting cast as country music Jesus for Eric Church.
Huh?
Yeah, I never told you about this.
No, you told me about creative direction with him.
Yeah, so I one of my friends does art, well, not just art direction, but full production for, musicians and their tours in particular. And he got somehow tapped into the whole country music scene. And one of his big clients was Eric Church. And he came to my birthday dinner. I think you were there where we did the Last Supper pose.
No, I wasn't.
Okay, you weren't there.
Was that here?
Yeah, but it was 2 birthdays ago. And it was the all-you-can-eat Korean barbecue. We recreated the Last Supper.
Yeah.
And anyway, he came to my studio right after. He wanted to see the work in person, paintings. And the next day, he's like, "Man, I think you'd be really good for this art direction job." And I'm like, "I've never really done that before in like this professional sense, as far as music goes, or touring projects. But I'm open to it." And he let me know what the pay was, and I'm like, "All right, cool. Yeah, let's do that." And
Damn.
through that, we were able to move into the apartment that we've been in for the past year.
Oh,
Because I'm
wow.
like,
Because
oh,
of that job.
exactly. I'm
Whoa.
going to be making this, amount of money every month. And little did I know, that's not how it works.
Nope.
But I'm so grateful for him because it was such a great learning opportunity. And it kind of pushed me into this next level of abundance that I probably would not have gotten to as quickly, without that opportunity. And then what happened is that art direction for Eric Church ended, and I get a call like 2 months later. "Hey, Preston, Eric is interested in casting you for this tour visual." Well, what ended up happening is they were like, "We need a country music Jesus," because Eric has a song called Country Music Jesus, for the tour. So I was working on the art direction, and then I actually became the art direction. And we spent 2.5 days filming, and it was my only Hollywood experience. The first half was in Laurel Canyon at a home, and that's where I heard the term speeding, and got the whole political nature of talent versus production versus this versus that.
Right.
And it was fun. It was interesting. Would I do it again? Maybe. The project would have to be right. And then we spent the other half in Palm Springs. Was it Palm Springs? The desert.
The desert.
In the desert filming. And it was an interesting experience.
When was that? That was like 2 years ago, huh?
No, this was...
A year?
This was March, almost exactly a year ago.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you moved to California and like quickly after got that.
Yeah, so we moved to Los Angeles in August 2023. We did the Repurposed Religion performance across the street in October of 2023. So within 2 months of living here, I produced that project. That
For some reason, I'm like that. It just feels a lot shorter. Like I was like, that was 6 months ago.
Yeah, we've only been here, 2 years?
Wow.
Not even 2 years. A year and a half. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Goddamn. Are you liking it?
Yeah. And we like it so much that we're actually moving.
Here or away?
Away.
Where are you guys moving?
I know. Just to finish out the Eric Church story,
okay.
is he ended up headlining Stagecoach. And me as country music Jesus, I was on the screen for the
Wait, I was there.
Yeah. So you saw me.
Probably.
And in the desert when we were filming, I had to learn how to drive this 60s car. And we were on this dirt road. It was the final shot, final day. And I just went full David Blaine, performance artist, and tapped in. And, I was just supposed to be driving the car down this dirt road, 30 miles an hour, pretty slow. And then some doing, 50. And I just had the feeling, I'm supposed to stand up. And so I stood up while driving this car, put the steering wheel between my knees and got a little balance, and then did the Christ pose, did the T pose while driving this car.
Whoa.
Now I hadn't signed, I saw,
were they like freaking out?
No, they were like, keep doing that.
Oh, okay. So you moved to LA a year and a half ago. Mm-hmm. You guys just had a baby last week.
Yeah, 8 days ago. This is Blaze Orion Boyer's first official podcast appearance.
I like Orion.
You know what it means?
Oh, no.
Orion means heaven's light or son of fire.
Okay.
Also Orion's belt, and I think there's a Greek god, Orion.
I was going to say, are you guys Irish?
No, it's not Orion. It's not Orion. I guess that's Scottish.
You look kind of Irish, though.
I have Scot and English in me.
Okay.
But it's, if you go far enough back, it's all the same thing. So, yeah.
Nice.
So, yeah, people are like, you're Irish? And I'm like, oh, my God, this is going to be...
It's going to be tough.
The question I get the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Orion.
Where are you guys moving?
So we were temporarily moving to upstate New York, to Chatham, New York, for 1 to 2 months for a trial residency period for this water company I'm starting. So our good friend, who's an advisor on my company, has a property there where he has a well. And when I was pitching him the project to get his feedback about 3 months ago or so, he's like, you should really consider just hand blowing all the glass bottles to start off with and just wrapping these bottles in fabric, kind of like we've talked about, and just make everything by hand and as your first run. And I'm like, okay, maybe, no, I just want to raise a bunch of money and produce a bunch of product. And through all the conversations I was having with people and potential investors and people I respect, other entrepreneurs in the water space and just in general, this idea that you really need to build your community, you need to build your audience and create conversation, which the product actually comes out of, became more and more present and pressing and is now the number one priority in the company. And so
hence the podcast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because most people don't know what they're putting in their body with water.
Right. And then when you find out, it's fucked.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Right. I'm not the best with my water. I used to be really good. Like I used to go to a spring when I was up in San Francisco. I would drive like an hour to go get water out of the mountain. It's like just a free flowing spring. And there was like a shrine there. It was like very spiritual and like wonderful and awesome. And then we would have friends who would go up to Mount Shasta and get water from there. And then some shit happened. And when I moved down here, I'm just like, I'll just use the Berkey filter and like not really, I don't know, not as careful where the water comes from or what's in it. What sparked your interest in it?
Well, one comment about the Berkey in particular, we had a Berkey too. And
I know you told me.
This is the best filter in the world, right? Well, we were drinking from it for over a year. I finally got a TDS meter, which is a total dissolved solid meter, which measures how much organic matter is in the water other than the H2O components, right? Because water is not just water. The tap water coming out of our faucet in Koreatown was 360 parts per million. The TDS, after all the filtration from the Berkey, was 348. So it was basically, we were drinking tap water for a year.
What are the other particles?
Okay, well, when you talk about municipally sourced water systems and supplies, there's all sorts of, there's a lot of stuff. So with Los Angeles in particular, through my research on their water quality analysis, which they're legally allowed to report every year, but they make it very difficult to find.
Of course, yeah.
And they put the worst stuff at the bottom and little asterisks. So you actually have to read the whole report. Okay.
How long is the report? Like 50 pages or
something like that. I think more like 20.
Okay.
But the interesting thing is that the little asterisks on the very last page are the most important parts to read. With these municipally sourced water systems for Los Angeles, for example, most of the water actually comes from living water sources. So when I say living water, I'm talking about well, spring, these types of sources. And then they get stored in a reservoir. Same with New York. A lot of water systems actually. But the problem is that these waters are so over-treated because these governments don't want people to get sick from any sort of bacteria or parasites in that water. And in these collection pools where municipal water is stored, they're open to the environment. They're exposed.
Right.
And groundwater supplies can affect these water systems, and these holding tanks and these reservoirs. With Los Angeles, they over-chlorinate the water to such insane levels. Most big cities do. And they're just naturally occurring chemicals and pharmaceuticals that enter our water supply systems because everyone's on medication now. You urinate. That is not able to be broken down by Mother Nature through these groundwater supplies. So it does eventually end back up in a lot of these systems. And then the overchlorination with all these other chemicals that end up in your municipally sourced water systems create all these disinfection byproducts, which are called DBPs.
Okay.
And there's not much research around them, but we do know that most of them are extremely carcinogenic. There's more and more research coming out now. We think we're doing a good thing by killing the bacteria and parasites in the water, but really we're creating all these other problems that haven't been researched as much. And then the conversation of fluoride comes about.
Yeah, what the fuck is that? Okay, so really quick, this pisses me off because like being like a little woke 24, 25-year-old, I remember fighting with my family in Texas. They're all Republican, obviously, and I was still am to some degree, like very liberal, everything. And they're like, oh, the government doesn't need to pay for healthcare. They don't need to pay for school. And I was like, if they care that much, why do they put fluoride in the water? Like, they care about our teeth.
Yeah.
That's the excuse that I've heard. But I'm like, they care about our teeth so much that they put fluoride in our water. Yeah. I don't understand. And they're like, well, yeah, we need good dental hygiene in America. And I was like, that's it? That's all they care about? Because they seem pretty... Sorry, yeah, I just don't understand. What have you found? Like...
Yeah, and there is research that fluoride does prevent cavities and strengthens your teeth.
Yeah.
Right. Fluoride isn't inherently in of itself a bad thing. The problem is with all of these minerals that are in our water, a lot of the best waters in the world have naturally occurring fluoride in them. The problem is that since 1964, it's either been legally required or strongly suggested that fluoride is added to the water in very high levels. So the research shows that over 0.5 milligrams per liter of fluoride in your water, especially in young children, reduces IQ. It also is linked to calcifying the pineal gland, which is your third eye, your intuition. Your pineal gland naturally produces DMT. It's basically, in many ways, in many spiritual practices, connection to God. So in some yogic practice, meditation practice, if you focus on your third eye, you can actually activate it, and it gets pretty psychedelic pretty quick. My conspiratorial side thinks that populations become much more easily controllable when their pineal gland is calcified, when people have lower IQs, when we're dumbed down. If you read a bunch of reports, we're actually making a bunch of content around fluoride and coming from it from like, hey, like this is the science out here, this is the data. Hello, UPS facility.
Did you just have an earthquake, or was that?
No, I don't think
that's pretty. Okay.
They hear us talking about fluoride. Yeah. And they're like, I was thinking about that Tyler the Creator song. You make my earthquake. But to be forced fluoride, and fluoride is very challenging to remove through filtration systems. The only way to get it out really is through reverse osmosis filtration systems. And even then it becomes challenging. You can also, Berkey had this thing with a fluoride system that removed the fluoride from the water, but put so much aluminum in the water because it was an aluminum filter. And aluminum is, honestly probably worse for you than fluoride off the rip. But yeah, for example, Los Angeles constantly tests at 0.7 to 0.9 milligrams per liter of fluoride, which is higher than that 0.5 milligrams, and can even get all the way up to 1.2 milligrams per liter, which is almost double that amount.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you really care about our teeth that much?
Yeah, no, that doesn't make any sense.
And then you look at historically the politics around fluoridation to the water, who's funding it, all of these sorts of things. And a lot of red flags go off for sure. So, with our water company, we want to be first to market with the first marketed fluoride-free water that is a living water. And so there are living water sources, artesian well sources in particular, some spring water sources that have no fluoride in it. A lot of these really intense mineral waters do have naturally occurring fluoride in it. But with these intense mineral waters, you're drinking maybe 750 milliliters a day. You're not drinking 2 gallons of it.
Right.
And so if you hold up this bottle of water right here, your Mountain Valley, and this is the sparkling version, right? The sparkling is still often tested differently.
Okay.
Mountain Valley has been acquired, bought and sold. They've been around since 1871. They've been multiple presidential choices of water. Take a sip, my friends.
This is not good.
No, it's good. This is the water we have at home. We subscribe to the 5-gallon drums. It is the best commercially available water on the market right now.
Hell yeah.
Until Liquid Life Wellness Water is in every superstore, and
Fuck yes.
we'll give Mountain Valley a big
Every
run for their money.
Erewhon too.
Yeah, the problem with Erewhon is it's like, it's so representative of LA.
Yeah.
It is such a physical manifestation of a lot of the spiritual component of what this city represents and is. You know, people think it's super bougie and fancy. You go in there, they barely have anything that's organic. It's way overpriced.
Atrociously overpriced.
And you think you're getting something good for yourself. You think you're like being healthy by going to Erewhon. That is not necessarily the case. Right? It just is. And they have amazing products. I have to buy particular sparkling waters, mineral waters from Erewhon because they're the only retail distributor of it. But I was there and I flipped over some like cheesecake or something. It was like $10 for a tiny little slice of cake. And I'm like,
it's ridiculous.
But it comes back to water. It's all about marketing. It's all about your positioning, because most water companies are selling you poisonous water, oftentimes municipally sourced purified tap water in poisonous bottles, aluminum cans, plastic bottles for exorbitant rates. And we're trying to change the game and push the ball forward in that while making a lot of money. And those things don't have to be mutually exclusive.
Right. Where did this idea come from?
Yeah.
Because you're an artist, you always will be an artist.
Yeah.
But when did this come about?
Yeah. So I started playing with the idea of starting some sort of water company about 1.5 years ago, soon after we moved to Los Angeles. I have been water obsessed since I got sober. My sober brother in recovery.
Yes.
Linking and building for many years.
We met in New York.
Met in a New York AA meeting.
I was in a meeting. I was talking shit on what is that place? What is that neighborhood?
The Bushwick?
Bushwick, yes.
Well, it's technically East Williamsburg. Yeah.
I was talking shit about Brunswick. I was like, was I talking shit about Brunswick?
I don't know, but that sounds about right.
Or Bushwick? Sorry.
Brunswick, Bushwick are literally the same thing on opposite
literally
coasts.
the same thing. I was talking shit about it, I think, and then you walked up to me after and like just took me under your wing for like the week that I was there that time. Introduced me to like your friends. We went out to dinner. We went to meetings. It was great. And I moved to LA, and then you're like, "Hey, that looks fun. I should copy Scott," which thank you.
Yep.
And then,
fully copied.
Yeah, fully copied. And then you moved out here now. Yeah. So just also thank you for saying that and making a connection. And yeah, it's been like really cool to see you grow the last couple of years. But yeah, so when you moved out here, you were thinking of the water company.
Yeah, it started to kind of play in my mind. And when I got sober 10 years ago, I got sober in Houston. I'm from Houston. Topo Chico wasn't even acquired by Coca-Cola at that point. No one knew what Topo Chico was.
I do love Topo Chico.
Uh-oh.
I know. I know.
We'll touch that a little bit later. They constantly test for some of the highest PFAS, which are forever chemicals, of any water on the market. This idea that a Mexican water is a premium bottled water is an extreme flip of what historically people go to Mexico and they will only drink bottled water.
Right.
And now Topo Chico is one of the most predominant waters around the entire United States. It's a great market. I mean, kudos to Coca-Cola for doing that. Topo Chico was a great water.
I mean, their bottles are really nice. I like the branding. I like the yellow color. The bubbles and the carbonation are really great as well. But like, yeah, it's being backed by Coca-Cola for water. And like, I think Coca-Cola also has Dasani, and Dasani's awful. Fucking awful.
Dasani is definitely probably my least favorite water ever.
Yes.
Growing up, my childhood best friend, his family only drank Dasani.
Dude.
And I just remember the smell of Dasani in their house.
Yep.
and they remineralize it with calcium chloride, magnesium chloride, and sodium bicarbonate, some baking soda. But for some reason, there's something that Dasani does. I really do believe that blue water bottles make water more acidic from all of my research and testing. I don't know what the science is behind that, but in my experience, it's pretty true.
You tested it?
In my own experience.
Oh, okay.
Bottles in blue tend to be more acidic for some reason.
Interesting.
Yeah. Green bottles are great. We're trying to figure that out with the blue bottles because we want to make a blue bottle. Oh, I have a gift for you.
What's the gift? Oh,
this is a.
Did you blow this by mouth?
No. This is a Gerolsteiner used bottle of mine that I painted in my studio here and wrapped in a fabric I created. And right now I'm just doing tests in my studio, kind of very first draft sketches.
Yes, I do like it being wrapped in a cloth.
Yeah,
I find that like very nice.
Yeah, there's a lot of spiritual context to fabric and prayer cloths, and different religions tying pieces of cloth over objects and praying over them. And so with our water, we're exploring the spiritual nature of water as well. Kind of like you mentioned with the Shasta Springs.
I'm going to put that right there.
Let's do it. And I have another gift for you. I'm like Nardwuar right here.
What's the gift? Okay.
This is an Italian sparkling mineral water.
Let's go.
From Trader Joe's.
Is this good?
It is good. It's like their version of San Pellegrino.
Is it good for you?
Yeah. So do you know the difference between mineral water and spring water and water?
Nope.
Okay, so this is a mineral water, which means it has a total dissolved solid of 250 milligrams per liter or higher.
Sir, I have no idea what you're talking about.
So pull that Mountain Valley up.
Okay.
And look on the back side and look at what it says is in the water.
It says calcium, magnesium, potassium, total dissolved solids. What?
Yeah.
I've never seen this. 220 to 230.
Yeah.
And then this has...
the font is a bit smaller on this one.
Dissolved mineral solids, 350 ppm.
Yeah. So parts per million and total dissolved solids are the same number.
Okay.
So that's one thing to point out that's kind of confusing to people. So with Mountain Valley, they're marketed as a total dissolved solid of 220 to 230 milligrams per liter. Technically, to be a mineral water...
Is a lower number better or...
So that's a great question. And most people think that a lower number is better.
I want 0.
Yeah. And there's a 0 water filter that filters your TDS down to 0. They give you a TDS meter with the actual filter. Right. And that's kind of what sent me down the whole rabbit hole.
But you need those minerals
exactly
in your body. Those are like electrolytes.
Electrolytes and minerals are the same thing.
Right.
They're what your body needs for water to actually have an electrical charge and be absorbed and used by your cells. On that level. And so when people are drinking only reverse osmosis water, now when you have a reverse osmosis system in your home and you have a tap water that starts at 360, or in Houston it's around 400, in New York it's around 350, depending on your piping, right? That's a big part of it. That reverse osmosis system usually gets it more closer to about a 40 total dissolved solid. So you're still having some stuff in there. The thing about TDS, you don't know what that 40 TDS actually consists of. There can be bacteria, parasites, all sorts of bad organic matter in there. And then there can also be minerals. You can even have a TDS of 0 and have bacteria and parasites in your water. So these are things to kind of point out. But your body, the main 5 that I talk about as far as minerals, which are marketed and sold to us as electrolytes, are sodium, salt, calcium, magnesium. The problem with a lot of these waters is the calcium to magnesium ratio is 15 to 1, where in reality, your body really needs 1.5 magnesium to 1 calcium.
Okay.
And we used to get a lot of magnesium from the fruits and vegetables we eat and the red meat we eat, but because of big agriculture, industrial farming, use of GMOs, and our soil being overproduced, we're not getting as many minerals. So therefore, the water we drink is more and more important. Why more and more people are supplementing. Water, mineral water in particular, is the original supplement industry. And then the other minerals that you really want that are kind of the big 5 are bicarbonate, baking soda, and then also potassium.
Okay.
So that's kind of the mineral composition that I focus on. And then all waters have varying levels of that, but also other different minerals to it that, some research shows is bad in these quantities. Some research shows can For example, arsenic we think is horrible. In very, very trace levels, it's found in a number of mineral waters, and it's linked to killing cancer cells. In fluoride, for example, in trace levels at 0.1 milligrams per liter, which are in some of my most favorite waters, do promote bone density, right? So there is legitimacy to it, and it's not so black and white. Like our world today, politics, culture, art, water, it's not so black and white. And a big reason why we're launching this YouTube channel is to actually create that conversation and let people come to their own decisions, their own conclusions. Just like in AA, you come up with your own higher power.
Right.
There's no answer.
Right. And
that is really about that. That's the life's journey, is to be on the spiritual journey. And one answer will lead to a question, which will lead to an answer. And that's really the scientific method. So that's my tirade.
Okay. So how did this come about?
Yeah.
So you moved here from New York. Did you start testing water? You've always been into water.
Yeah, just like as a sober person, when you get sober, you start just chugging LaCroix.
Yes.
It's how I used to drink Bud Light. I'd drink the whole thing in 2 sips.
Yeah.
It's just how I function. And then being from Houston, we had Topo Chico.
Yeah.
One little story about Topo Chico, they sponsored one of my New York Fashion Week shows. My second New York Fashion Week show. And we had all this Topo Chico product there. And this was 2018, everyone there was like, what is this? What sort of vodka seltzer is this? Or is this alcohol? What is this?
Yeah.
No, it's water. And this is a Mexican water that is really popular in Texas. And everyone's like, what is it? And I have people still today be like, that's the first time I've ever tried Topo Chico. It's in every single bodega in New York even.
No.
And they sell it for $3.50 for a 12-ounce bottle in New York.
Yeah, they took off like a motherfucker. Like even being here 2 years ago, I was like, what is Topo Chico?
Yeah.
My brother's like, oh, you have to try it. And then now it's fucking everywhere.
I love the carbon. I love super intense mineral water.
Yes.
The crazier, the better for me, unless we get to that Vichy Catalan level, which is the Spanish water that has a TDS marketed at 3,000 milligrams per liter, basically 10 times this one.
Whoa.
Right. And it tastes like you're drinking ocean water with pure baking soda.
Whoa.
So this level of like 300 to 400 milligrams per liter mineral water, that's a good everyday water for me. Gerolsteiner, which is the most popular sparkling mineral water.
Is that found at Erewhon?
No, maybe, but mainly Trader Joe's.
Oh, okay, shit. So wait, Trader Joe's has good water?
Yes.
What?
Yes. This is Trader Joe's version of San Pellegrino.
Okay, I want to get back to how you started it, but also Trader Joe's, like, I go get produce from Trader Joe's. I go get an apple. The next day, it's like rotted on my countertop.
Yeah, stop buying produce from Trader Joe's.
No. I stopped many years ago. Only when I was in college, and I would like bring back the cauliflower, bring back the bell pepper to my house, and like as I am like unpacking it from the grocery store onto my shelf, it's like already rotted and disintegrated. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with this produce?
Yeah.
One of my buddies was sitting at like this bougie Hollywood event with like a couple important people at a round table eating dinner, and they were sharing like, oh, what do you do? And this guy's like, oh, like I'm the produce person at Trader Joe's. Like I get all the produce and ship it for every single Trader Joe's or whatever. The top guy, and the guy's like, oh, like should I trust the produce? And he's like, do not trust the produce from our store.
Oh my God.
Trader Joe's is awful. And I still have friends who live and die by Trader Joe's produce. They're like, no, it's so organic that's why it rots so fast.
Is it even market? They barely have any organic produce.
They have a few. I would say like maybe like 1/3.
The problem is even with organic. So my stepfather is my business partner in this water venture, and he is obsessed with anything supplement health related. He's reading every new study that comes out. He calls it his supplement porn. And he's, off his rocker about organic versus non-organic. And they actually buy a bunch of non-organic produce because he's like, honestly, organic doesn't mean anything. And they just use different things, different sorts of pesticides, different sorts of treatment processes. For Jacqueline and I, we really don't eat vegetables, which sounds kind of crazy.
What do you guys normally eat?
Mainly meat and carbs.
Yeah.
But organic carbs and organic meat, grass-fed, grass-finished.
What kind of carbs?
Potato.
Nice.
Yeah, a lot of potato. I'll eat like organic breads.
Yeah.
This type of thing, oatmeal, everything has its own problem.
Yeah.
What we try and do is everything organic though. And I'm like, how are you so health obsessed and you're buying just arugula out here, non-organic? It blows my mind. Just grapes, like all these things that are just so GMO'd out. And he's like, well, I've just done all the research, and at this point, the price difference, the cost benefit analysis in his mind doesn't make sense to actually buy organic for the price increase. But
interesting.
We're like, y'all are crazy. I mean, but then again, we don't eat a ton of vegetables. So
yeah.
Is
it the taste, or is it just more?
I think
for me, it's the glyphosate.
Yeah, the glyphosates.
Jacqueline said the glyphosate.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we both take supplements, so we're mineralizing through a lot, what historically humans have gotten through. Vegetables in particular, we eat root vegetables, cabbage, fermented things like this.
Yeah.
But as far as like leafy greens go, I'm very particular. Like I'll get a head of butter lettuce that still has its roots. If I was farming all of my food and I knew exactly what was going into that soil, of course. I mean, I love a salad.
Do you have a reaction to glyphosate? Or is it just like, you do?
She developed an immune disorder.
Oh.
An autoimmune disorder. Her cells were eating herself from the inside out, basically.
I had large traces of glyphosate in my system.
She said she has large traces of glyphosate in her system. Had.
And once I rid my body of that, so you do that through humic and fulvic acid.
Okay.
I started healing. Glyphosate is Roundup.
Roundup, yeah. And fulvic acid was your
and it's
cleanse.
On most conventional produce.
It's on most conventional produce. Yeah. So everything you get really should be organic. And just knowing that even though it says organic doesn't mean it's poison and chemical free.
Right.
But knowing that, and I think more and more people that actually know that, you go to an expensive restaurant, they're not using organic produce unless that's their thing. So we don't even go out to eat. I'm like, why am I paying $80 for a steak?
That is funny.
It's not even grass-fed, grass-finished. This is like USDA prime, antibiotic, steroid-injected meat that I'm paying $80 for. I can buy 4 amazing quality grass-fed, grass-finished steaks through Frankie's Farms in Pennsylvania from some Amish people, right?
Dude,
and
the Amish
cook it myself.
They know what's up.
Yep.
Can get good beef and then like good dogs from them.
Good dogs.
Not to eat, but
well, I'm allergic to animals, so unfortunately.
Yeah, they have the cutest dogs, and they'll like sell them. So I have friends out here who have gone to Pennsylvania to get dogs from the Amish.
That's so insane to me.
It's insane. But they do everything well. Low-key, I would not be mad if I was Amish.
Well, maybe there's a future for you, my friend.
Thank you.
Amish, living in the brewery lofts, very similar lifestyle.
Very similar.
Yeah.
Thank you.
They can't have caffeine, can they?
Well, then never mind.
Or is that might be the Latter-day Saints?
I think it's a lot of things, maybe. Oh. I don't know who.
I mean, sheesh, I'm looking Amish. I'm looking Orthodox AF right now with the beard.
But the white cowboy boots.
These are Carol Christian Poel dupes, straight from Shanghai.
Straight from Shanghai.
Seriously, there's this guy on Instagram named Solo Handmade Shoes, and he makes these are horse leather, authentic, 100% horse leather.
Homemade dupes, right?
Yeah, incredible craftsmanship, very expensive, but with CCPs, Carol Christian Poles, and some other weedy models, they just don't produce the shoes. So the only options you have are going on Grailed and finding one in these sizes in this color way that I love, that I wanted for my wedding to begin with, is basically impossible. And then secondly, if you find one, it's extremely worn in about $3,000 to $4,000.
Fuck.
And I didn't want to wear cowboy boots for my wedding. I wanted something unique. So we ended up with this.
Those are nice.
Thank you.
Is that a zipper on the side?
It is a zipper on the side.
Yeah, that's
two-way.
sick.
They use the same zippers that they use in,
Are they comfy at least?
Yeah, they're comfortable. I wrote every single paper on why Zara is such a horrible company when I was in college. And now literally my jacket and my pants are Zara.
Where'd you go to school?
University.
Wait, you're wearing Zara?
Yeah, I have
everything?
Zara pants and I have a Zara jacket on.
So they're not that horrible?
This is all organic linen jacket. Yeah.
What, from Zara?
From Zara. We're buying baby clothes on Zara.
What?
So the best way I can describe it is...
Okay, wait. So is Zara not a terrible company?
Oh, they're horrible.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the clothes are good and cheap?
Yeah. It's like drinking Pellegrino, kind of.
Okay.
Nestle owns Pellegrino. They use graphene oxide to filter their water instead of activated charcoal because they're sociopaths. And at the same time, sometimes, the only option is a Pellegrino at the nice restaurant, and I don't want to drink your tap water. So there's my case for Zara.
It's like, what's that guy who did like the subtle art of not giving a fuck? It's like, pick your fucks that you care about.
Yeah.
And you cared about that, obviously, in college, but then now you don't.
Yeah, and I was more in the fashion industry then, and I just saw how they had a boat. Zara owned a boat. Yes, this sounds so insane, but it's a reality. And they would ship this boat to Europe during Fashion Week, and all the employees would go to the shows, see all the trend reports, and then get on the boat, sew all the patterns, copy all the clothes, and by the time they ended up back in South America, they would have everything ready to go for production, put it into production.
It was like a factory on a boat?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
What?
So they weren't full production, but they'd get all the samples, all the tech packs, all the patterns done.
What?
Yeah. And that's how they are dominating the industry.
I mean, they do well. Their photography is also insane, like on their social media and on their websites for their like higher end clothes that they have. It's just like really nice. It's really good.
Yeah.
I started going to Zara. What I don't like, I started going to Zara like last year. I've only gone like 3 times, but I really enjoy it because it's on trend, really like decently priced, looks really nice, looks very unique. But like, let's say a t-shirt, I'll wear it once, it's shrunken.
Yeah, I would never buy t-shirts from them.
Yeah, yeah. But their jackets are really nice.
Yeah.
Are their pants good too? Okay.
Yeah, I enjoy most of the pants that I've got from them. Any of these fast fashion places, the quality difference between each garment varies so drastically because they have factories all around the world and the materials they're sourcing are just such different quality.
Yeah.
And something that might cost $65 and another product that might cost $65, pair of pants, for example, that are similar styles but have, minor differences in their different SKUs will be so different in quality. One's made in Bangladesh, one's made in Vietnam, one's made in China. I actually haven't heard as much bad stuff coming out about Zara, and they do have that higher end line. I don't want to say I'm pro or anti Zara. I'm pretty neutral about it. But here I am, I'm wearing it. And also it's just the season of life I'm in. It's like, I'm not a multimillionaire at the moment.
Yeah,
that'll happen. Am I going to be shopping at Zara then? Absolutely not.
Where are you going to be shopping?
Honestly, I've been so far removed from fashion that I don't even know where I'd start. Like what that brand identity, who I really am. What I will tell you though is my main focus is on organic materials. Not wearing anything polyester. From underwear to socks, it's hard to find good socks that don't have any polyester in them. To just everything, because different fabrics have different frequencies. And this is something we were really looking into with Repurpose Religion, which is the performance piece Scott helped us film and put together that debuted here at the Brewery Lofts a year and a half ago or so.
Yeah.
But linen has the highest frequency, and then wool is behind that.
What is linen made out of?
What is linen made out of? Flax.
Flax seeds? Or is it like you grow the flax seeds into flax? I've never heard of flax.
It might be a flower.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And I think, I'm not positive on it, Jews wear it for that reason.
Huh?
Because of its healing properties.
Whoa.
And bed sheets in hospitals in the early 1900s were all
Linen. Yeah. Linen has a lot of
Whoa.
spiritual and religious connotation. It's biblically based as well.
Wow.
And there's a lot of research around it actually leading to healing. And there's different compositions of linen, right? You can have something that's all linen. I'm sure there's different materials that people are making linen out of and different weaving techniques, but I haven't been officially in fashion in a hot minute. So
Yeah, you went to fashion school, right?
for about a month, but I was smoking Oxycontin at the time. So my best friend was this like super ghetto stripper in there, and we'd just chop it up. And
Was a ghetto stripper in fashion school?
I went to the Houston Community College Fashion Design School.
Oh, okay, got you.
I mean, it was great for where I was at in life because I was, full drug addict mode activated. It was super nice and fun.
When did you get sober? I don't even know if I know
2014.
this. 2014.
September
How old were you
2014.
then?
Yeah. I was 19.
Wow, you just had 10 years, or you're
Yeah.
coming up on it?
I just turned 30. So
Wow.
we're like 10 and a half years in. Yeah. September 3rd, 2014 is when I got sober.
Whoa. You're smoking
So-
Oxy at 20?
19.
19?
Yeah. I didn't like smoking it as much because it was so intense. I'd black out and I was always on other things. Yeah. So I preferred like cutting it up in quarters or halves, but the pills are so small. It was just hard not to. And my Oxy dealer was always like, let's smoke it. Let's get the tin foil. And so we'd always end up smoking. I'm like, I'd black out and, cops called
Oh
and
my God.
throwing up and,
Whoa.
it wasn't as fun. We stole a Lamborghini together one time. That was fun, except not really.
What happened there?
I was just at my Oxycontin dealer's house. At this point, I had no money, so I would travel around with a jar of change in my trunk, and I would literally count out, $4.50 for my Coke dealer, and be like, I would do the math on my calculator on my phone. This gets me 0.2 grams of Coke, which is enough for 3 lines, and then I'd ask him for a $1 bill to snort the Coke, and I'd give him the $1 bill back. That's where we were at in the addiction. And I was traveling around with all these sneakers in the back of my car to trade for drugs. No drug dealers wanted my sneakers. They wanted money because, the opiate addict guys were also opiate addicts.
Right.
The opiate dealer guys were also addicts. So, yeah, I went over to his apartment. He lived in this beautiful luxury building because his family was very wealthy. And, we ended up smoking the Oxys because that's what he wanted to do, and ended up at the valet, and he convinced the guy to give us the keys to his neighbor's Lamborghini. And here we are in the Lamborghini trying to back it out. But Lamborghinis are not like traditional cars. They require some skill.
Yeah.
So somehow we got it out of the parking spot, and we could not figure out how to get it too much further. And I was freaking out. I make it sound cool, but I was freaking out. And then we got some cool Instagram photos, and that was kind of the extent of stealing the Lamborghini.
Did you take it back, or did you
We put it back, yeah.
Okay, so you borrowed without permission a Lamborghini.
Yes, I think that's technically called stealing. I made a painting about this whole thing too. And I referenced Andy Warhol's death and disaster paintings with the car crashes. And then on the back of it, I had this tinfoil and a photo of this hillbilly heroin documentary when people were really smoking a lot of these pills in West Virginia area in the early mid 2000s. So yeah.
Do you still have those photos of you in the Lamborghini?
No, I never actually post those to Instagram
Okay.
because I was smart enough to get to that point where I didn't want to photograph actual crimes.
Yeah.
But those photos do exist on a very old iPhone that I definitely still have. Even though Jacqueline tries to get me to just throw away the phone, I'm keeping this phone. My sweet minimalist wife.
Yes. Yeah. How far after that did you get sober?
Not too far after. That was summertime. I ended up getting sober in September. So
Okay.
I'd say probably June, July, that bottom time for
Okay.
sure.
Do you mind if I go into what your turning point was?
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about smoking Oxycontin and stealing Lamborghinis. I think we need to add some solution to it. But I tried to just smoke weed. I was gluten-free at the time. I was just drinking gluten-free beer. I was trying to not do cocaine. I was trying to just not do Xanax. I was trying to just not do opiates, and it would always end
As
up
a 20-year-old.
18, 19. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. hanging out with wannabe gangbangers, robbing drug dealers, sleeping with weapons underneath my pillow at my parents' house. And I was fat. I would go to Taco Bell and Whataburger because they were right next to each other. And I would just be tweaking on a bunch of pills and stuff and get both those and then go back to my room, blockade my door because they were coming to get me. The cartel was after me, right? Psychosis. And eat all the food in bed. So I was like super bloated and methed out. And if we think this acne's bad.
I don't even see any. I only see like 2 spots. You're fine.
See, there we go. Only 2.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah.
Did your parents know while you were living under the
kind of, but all addiction stems from trauma, and a lot of it is childhood trauma and generational trauma.
Do you think that? Because I feel that way too. And then I'll go to people in the room and be like, oh, like, going through traumatic stuff, I needed something to cope with.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, it doesn't. Like, it's just the way you are. And I'm like, I haven't met too many people in AA who have not had some trauma.
Yeah. Most humans have had trauma.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of how we deal with it, how we process it.
Right.
These drugs and alcohol is in itself physically addictive. Some people can have a surgery and be on oxys and not get addicted to it. And there are people who might physically get addicted to that substance, but they're not actually alcoholics or addicts. It might be a season in their life that they're going through and they're coping with this, but they don't need AA. They don't need a rehab. They just need to get out of that season somehow. And there's many alternatives. I became a certified addiction recovery coach in New York my last year there. And I've seen many spectrums of it. But Jacqueline is a somatic healer and coach. And through her research, she's really realized that trauma, a lot of complex trauma, which I have, it wasn't one event in particular. It's a series of how you're raised and these belief systems and basically insanity that is passed down from generation to generation that, one or both parents are not willing to work on or even aware of, that they then translate to you. And as an only child, I was the mediator in between very angry, narcissistic dad and very overbearing, super loving mother. And I had to be the mediator between all of that.
Oh, interesting. I feel a lot in common with that. My dad was very much so like that. It was his way or the highway. And like one day he would be in a decent mood. The next day, like if you talked in the wrong tone or if you looked at him the wrong way, it was like game over.
Game over.
Game over.
You will be punished forever.
Yeah. And then my mom is just very caring and cautious and sometimes overbearing.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. And that's okay, right?
Yeah.
At the same time, becoming aware of that is the first step. And there's people, I was in a meeting this morning who've been trying to come to AA since 1987, this one guy, and he just cannot stay sober.
Whoa.
It's because he has severe childhood trauma, and AA is not equipped to deal with that in all of its regards. AA is a really amazing jumping off point and starting point. It was for me, it is for many people, and a home base to kind of come back to. But it says in the literature, 86 through 88, be quick to see where other people are right. So specifically religious people, but seek outside help. And that's where the core of the actual work that I have to do lies, is no longer in AA. I've heard all of that, been there, done that, but I don't have the opportunity to actually do any of that work if I'm smoking oxys.
Right.
If I'm drinking, if I'm smoking weed, it doesn't work for me. I don't care about any of that. I don't have the ability to move forward in my spiritual journey and progress and be in touch with God if I'm active in that using pattern.
Yeah.
Some people are able to have a spiritual relationship and drink every once in a while. Some people are able to move forward and smoke weed every once in a while. And that's okay. That's not my story. Do I want to test the waters? Not really.
No. Yeah, for me, I tried.
Yeah, me too.
Did not work. I tried to stop for 2 months. I made it 2 months. I was sick. Let me celebrate. Went out to the bar. Woke up 2 days later. It was this might be a problem.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. And I tried. And finally, like, just fucking fell to my knees and was like, I need help.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's the beautiful thing about AA is like you self-identify. So you come up with the idea that you're an alcoholic or addict, and no one else can really technically tell you that, even though it's very obvious sometimes.
Dude, yes.
And the steps really do work. At the same time, there comes a certain point where people need more help and outside help. And it's not AA's job to tell you what that is. But I think more and more people are becoming more open to a lot of this work. And talk therapy was very helpful for a period of my life. But it becomes super repetitive, and it actually can stunt your growth at a certain point too.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I was dealing with that with my last therapist. Like, just keep going over the same thing. I'm like, cool. Like, I want to move on from this thing. This thing is not helping me at all. Why do we keep going over it? And he's like, we just have to. And I was like, I would come out of therapy like re-traumatized every time. For like a year, I stayed in there. After, like, I was with him for 5 years, but for a year, our final year, I was just like, this sucks.
Yep.
I feel like shit. It would take me like 2 days to recover from therapy. Then finally ended that and started seeing a like hypnotherapist. And that's been fucking helpful for me. It's like very visual. Yeah.
And hypnotherapy and somatics are actually, I think there's a lot of overlap there.
Yes.
Because with hypnotherapy, you get actually more in touch with your body and your unconscious, your subconscious, that is your body. And Jacqueline has really taught me through her somatic research and studies and the courses she was doing and is now creating, and she has a whole course around this, is trauma is actually stored in the body. And so in AA, we talk about the physical allergy, we talk about the mental obsession, we talk about the spiritual malady. Well, trauma is the same way. It's physical, it's emotional / mental, and it's also spiritual. And so how do we address this? Well, for me, I'd much rather go to a meeting than do a somatic exercise to release that trauma. But in a meeting, it's really addressing that mental and spiritual component. What happens to the physical? Exercise is great, but to actually release that pain and trauma trapped in the body requires some specific direction. And I've seen what Jacqueline's been able to do with her clients and the breakthroughs and releases. A lot of people who are actually in AA, who have addiction, who have complex trauma, who have very specific traumas, and how much their lives have significantly changed through that work. And I've seen it in my life, like how much I've physically changed. I was 6 years sober, going to a bunch of meetings during COVID in New York, and I couldn't leave the house because I had such an intense panic anxiety disorder.
Bro, what? Have we talked about this? Same. Wow.
COVID fucked a lot of people up.
Yeah. I couldn't leave the house for I think a month, and then finally got on antidepressants, which allowed me to finally step outside.
Yeah. And antidepressants, like therapy, if you read the labels, they're actually only supposed to be used for a temporary period of time. They're not supposed to be a forever solution. And people are not really aware of that. If you go to a therapist, what they know, their modality is therapy. And whatever therapy they're specified in. If you go to a psychiatrist, you're going to end up with some pills. If you go to an AA meeting, you're probably going to end up with a sponsor and working the steps. If you go to Jacqueline for somatic healing, you're probably going to end up with some somatic healing. We were at the hospital for the birth, and they know these modalities. They know Western medicine. They know what they've been taught. They don't know what they haven't been taught. Some of them have more experience because a number of those nurses had their own children, so they could give us anecdotal data and references, but everyone had something different to say. And it was like, what is the truth? What is the reality in all of this? And so I don't want to poo-poo on therapy. I don't want to talk down on medication. I don't want to talk down on, AA or any of these things by themselves. But I believe that we're in a point where it's much more about the holistic approach. And there's just different periods in life when someone needs a different thing. And when you get to the point where we've moved on and moved past something, we don't need to stick in that guilt and shame cycle of like, re-traumatizing ourselves, like you mentioned,
Yeah.
over and over again.
Yeah.
But then again, AA for me is like that home base, coming back to that. None of this is possible if I'm drinking and doing drugs. And I find my fellowship there. I find my friends there.
Yeah.
We're able to talk about this stuff very deeply and intimately in a pretty manufactured setting with lights. And there's just a real sense of humanity in that. And I hear God in those meetings through that guy who talked this morning who hasn't been able to get sober since 1987. I find gratitude in that.
Jeez, wow.
But it's also like, I just want to tell this guy, like, you have trauma, do my wife's course and it'll change your life. But I don't know if they're open to that, right? Like what that conversation actually looks like. Because in LA, everyone has their own, like, this is the guru you follow. This is the way. This is, and then you end up in a cult. And I keep joking. I'm like, Jack, we need to start a cult, get a bunch of sister wives.
You'd be a good cult leader, Preston.
We're moving to a farm in upstate.
Would you not be a good cult leader? Yes.
I'd be a good cult leader.
No one is a good cult leader.
Okay, nobody is a good cult leader.
She's been interested in all the cult documentaries on Netflix recently because she watched too much Great British Bake Off.
Fascinating.
What cult documentary is your favorite?
Dancing with the Devil is the most recent one.
Dancing with the Devil.
I thought she was going to say Dancing with the Stars.
I thought that
Have
too.
you seen it?
No, I have not.
It's about a cult here in Los Angeles.
Ooh, a cult here in Los
where
Angeles.
It's a religious cult, but he tapped into like street dancers,
Ooh.
and he would he basically like pimped them out, but like through the lens of Jesus Christ. It's crazy.
What?
Crazy. And he was, with most of these cults, male, it's a male, like,
Of course, yeah.
male, and they also end up sexually assaulting the members.
Yep. Sounds about right. Yep. Fuck. Yeah,
life.
you would be a good cult
But Preston
leader,
would
though.
never be one.
I'm too overwhelmed by too much people
Do
contact.
you know that you're gonna like become a cult leader, though? You know what I mean?
you have to be a sociopath, like
100%.
and inherently in being a sociopath, you think you're not a sociopath.
You think you're God.
Mm.
You think you are God.
Mm.
That's what I get from all of like these documentaries is the cult leaders believe that they are God.
Okay, so it's a horribly narcissistic.
Yeah,
Horribly narcissistic.
and it's probably from
Sociopathic.
trauma.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, 100%. I've never met a cult leader who had a beautiful life.
Okay,
great parents.
expand upon this. You've met a
You've
few.
met a cult leader before?
I don't want to get into it.
Okay.
Stakkat was in a cult.
I was in a group with
A group with a leader.
a really traumatized leader who hurt a lot of people.
Yeah.
And that's why I had to like move down from San Francisco. And yeah, I don't know how much I want to put out there right now, but when I wanted to move, like how I knew something was up was like when I was like, hey, like I want to go move back with my mom in Southern California. Like, I don't know if San Francisco, because I was having PTSD, traumatic stuff. I was in a really bad car accident. I was in I lost one of my best friends. I graduated school. It was all this change plus pandemic. And then plus finding out like, oh God, this group that I've been giving my life to for the past 7 years, this man is not who I think he is.
Yeah.
So I was having horrible like derealization, depersonalization, like it was a dissociative disorder going on. I just felt like I was in a movie the entire time. It's the most fucked up shit I've ever gone through. I was like, nothing is real. Because that's just it's a thing that happens. Like your brain is like, hey, we're going to remove you from the situation. So you're going to be floating for a bit to keep you safe. But it starts to trigger. And then I start having really horrible anxiety, panic attacks. I would hear a motorcycle go by. I would fall to the ground crying. I was 26, 27. This was 3 years ago. I would just like cry, could not leave the house. I went to therapist. I went to, went to the hospital many times because it was like just something is wrong. And then took antidepressants. The next day I was outside for the first time in a month. And I was like, oh, thank God. And I was finally able to live. And so anyways, long story short, I wanted to move back to Southern California from San Francisco. And I call up the dude and I'm like, hey, like, I'm going to move to Southern California. And the dude is like, okay, are you going to come back? And I was like, I don't know. And he's like, well, just so you know, if you leave, like you can't. You signed a lifelong commitment with me. And I was like, what do you mean? I wasn't there for that. I didn't know about that. And he's like, yeah, like by doing this one action that I did, I signed a commitment with him for life. And yeah, I was like, I gotta go. I'm sorry. And he's like, all right, just so you know, like if you leave, like people around you will start dying. Like your family will start dying left and right. Like, so just know that that's what you're going up against. Hung up. I was like, okay, like I gotta go. Boop. And then next hour I was in the hospital 5150'd because I just couldn't. I was like, what is happening? I'm so scared. And yeah, I moved down. 2 months later, my dad just drops dead. No cause of death, no nothing besides inflammation around the heart.
Myocarditis.
Yeah. So we're thinking that was something else, but I don't want to.
Well, people know. There's a lot of
some
studies
people do not want to know, though. My sister was in the hospital for 2 weeks from it. I was in the hospital for myocarditis after certain things in society. So maybe my family had bad reactions to it, whatever. Yeah, but there was no cause of death, which we found weird, but it could have also been like a cover-up type thing, or like we'll just sweep it there so we don't have to write it down and it gets documented or whatever. But yeah, that's my it was like a malignant cult with just like a really charismatic leader who would get us in vulnerable states and then ask for our time, our money, our energy.
I'm sorry to hear about your dad.
Thanks. Thank you. Oh, it's coming. Like, it's been 3 years in a couple days.
And was it some sort of blood oath activation of that contract?
No.
Because spiritual contracts are real things, and they can be positive spiritual contracts, and the typical deal with the devil. Yeah. There are dark energies that one can tap into that are real. Yeah. Did you kill your father? Absolutely not. No. But there were probably demonic forces on your life that this guy, cast on you, and you were participating in some capacity. And, that stuff is real. But at the same time, the opposite is way stronger. The light, God, all these angels, all these spirits, all these names that we hear that are kind of commonplace and everyday are very powerful. Yeah. And tapping into them without all the religious connotations is, I think, a really powerful thing to fight those evil energies and spirits. And my example of that recently was in the hospital and just praying over the doctors, the nurses, Jacqueline, in this extremely vulnerable state. She or the baby could have died. And you're in a state that's so powerless. But at the same time, the one power we have is to invoke those names and to pray and to bring that energy, that light into this situation. And so church can become a cult. The pastor can become the cult leader.
Bro, yeah. Hillsong, I think it is, or whatever.
I love their music. They collaborated with the church we go to recently.
What's the church that you guys go to?
Oasis.
Okay.
Yeah. And anything can turn into a cult, because really what it is if you make any person, place, or thing your higher power, they're not God. They can have a lot of attributes that, God has, but they're not. And we as humans place that power on them because of many reasons. And, we go to church most weeks. I love it. I get a lot out of it. Do I subscribe to everything in that cult in many ways? No. Do I benefit a lot from it? Yeah. Is AA a cult? No, because there's no central leader per se, but there's ideology, and it really is a religion. Politics can become a cult. They can become a religion. And being able to wear life like a loose garment and get the positive things from these, various indoctrination systems, but not fully becoming part of it, I think is something that I strive for in my life. And I think needs to be more part of the conversation. There isn't just one solution or one way for everybody. We're all here. We all chose our parents. We all chose our family. We all chose our life and the things that are happening. And we have free will to decide, how those kind of play out, if they play out, when they play out. And then also other people's free will gets in the way of all these other things. Yeah. Then we get into quantum realities, and all these sorts of rabbit holes. So
all said.
Yeah.
All said.
Cult leader.
Which brings me back to, okay, when did you want to start
the water business?
Also, thank you for saying all that, and thank you guys for listening and all that and sharing.
But I think more people need to hear your experience with it so they don't get sucked into this craziness.
Yeah.
And it might not be like some charismatic leader. It could be their church. It could be their college. It could be what they're seeing on social media. It could be some sort of political entity that is, turned into a religion and a cult. And there's so many ways to kind of get swept under the rug. And this is going to make me whole. This is going to make me feel safe. This is going to make me feel loved. I'm going to be taken care of. I actually have purpose. I have community. I have fellowship. And that was stripped away from you. 5150 hospital, your whole life disappeared. And I think a lot of people, as humans, we seek that naturally to be safe, to be taken care of. We have to have community. We have to have fellowship. But it's challenging to find something that ticks all the boxes. And I don't think there's one thing that particularly ticks all of the boxes. And that's kind of my point.
It's a good lesson in discernment, and also a really good lesson for me in feeling into my body. And if something feels wrong, get the fuck out. Doesn't matter if, if
that comes back to your intuition. You can't have that third eye, that intuition where your pineal gland is, if it's completely calcified.
Right.
Fluoride. It literally all comes
goes
back to water,
baby. All goes back to water. Yeah, if something feels wrong, get the fuck out.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if my friends or family are there. It doesn't matter if everybody's doing it. Gotta go.
Everybody's doing it. and one solution for people, if they've made it this long, is tamarind will decalcify your pineal gland. There are a number of other natural things.
The fruit.
The fruit,
obviously. Not the candy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the candy does, depending on the candy, might have actual tamarind in it.
Sick.
So, yeah.
Huh. Okay, so when you moved out here...
When I moved out here to Los Angeles.
To Los Angeles.
The city of angels. Is it the city of sin?
Are you guys liking it?
Yeah, we love it so much we're leaving.
I don't know what that means, because
we do love it. We do like it. It's a great balance between Houston and New York. It's kind of like living like Houston, but culture similar to New York. We love the nature components. That's kind of been ruined from the fires in many ways. The ocean, the beaches, the hiking. So that's really sad for us. We also haven't really been able to hike because, pregnancy stuff. So we'll be sad to leave. We'll have all our stuff in storage here. We're open to coming back. I don't get too bogged down in like the politics of particular places, the taxes right now. That will become more, and school systems, all of these things that will become more and more of a priority when picking a primary residence. I love Texas. I think Austin is probably the next on our docket.
Of course.
I hate that I'm like, I live in New York. Oh, I live in LA now. I've lived in New York. You have to like qualify living in Los Angeles that you lived in New York first in these art world circles to prove that like you've done your time and you're not just coming
to LA. Is that
a
a thing?
Yes. It's like, I lived in New York for X amount of years. I catch myself doing it. And then I know a lot of people move to Austin from Los Angeles and I'm like, oh, do I have to be one of these contrived?
Yes, you do.
Ugh, gross.
Unfortunately.
But
where would you want to live?
Well, living somewhere is much more about specific purpose and reason.
Okay.
My ideal situation, if I had unlimited money in the world, would probably be I'd have a beautiful brownstone, newly renovated townhome in downtown Manhattan. Maybe Chelsea, so it's a little quieter. Spend our summers in Europe, traveling properties there.
Let's go.
And then have a place in Houston or Austin for the winter. And then kind of substitute little trips in. So be in New York during the spring and the fall when the art world seasons are really happening and the weather is great. But we'll see what happens with the kids because we're hopefully going to have more kids and that changes things a bit with the educational system. So we'll see, but that's kind of my dream vision at the moment. And Austin, all of the investor conversations, all the sources, we're going to be drilling our own water wells, all of the key partners and distribution channels in the past 3 weeks have been pointing to Austin. And there's some major people interested in our water company and these conversations are really progressing. And I like Texans. I like doing business with Texans. 90% of my art sales come from business with Texans who are not in traditional art collectors. The podcast world is blown up in Austin. I love comedy. Kill Tony, Shane Gillis, Matt McCusker. These whole crowds are in Austin.
Yep.
And, part of the Liquid Life media channel is entertainment. Like, how do you make water interesting for people to actually be engaged with?
Well, and that's the thing with, and I think... Liquid Death turned... Oh, I saw what you did there, Liquid Life.
Yeah.
Not that... Is that how you got that name?
It's not how I got that name. In a way, it's a spiritual response to that idea.
Yeah.
And also a spiritual response to how poorly water is treated and the intention behind it. Liquid Death was genius.
Yeah.
They came into a space that is so antiquated and boring and
dude, made it fun.
Very fun.
Yeah.
The more research I do around the spiritual implications of water, I understand why my body always reacted negatively to wanting to put that in my body. I drink Liquid Death maybe 2 or 3 times. Sometimes at concert venues, that's the only water they have. Great business model. I respect what they do. Their content is so entertaining and engaging.
Their content's really good.
Funny.
The branding is really amazing. The packages of the water, like skulls with like art on it, is just fun. Yeah. As opposed to getting like a clear package of like fucking Dasani that you're carrying this plastic with plastic and it's making weird noise. Like the boxes that it comes in is really nice.
Yeah.
I mean.
So I have a lot of thoughts on that. With Liquid Death, they actually started transporting their water from Europe, from I think a Swiss Alp.
Yeah.
So it's a Swiss Alpine water. Well, they switched that to a spring source in West Virginia or in Virginia, but West Virginia. And so it's a good quality water. It's a spring water, similar to Mountain Valley. The problem is every aluminum can is lined with plastic that you drink. And so you're not only getting microplastic leaching in from that water, you're also getting that aluminum leaching into the water. Aluminum linked to all sorts of neurological problems. And the reason why all these water companies, as someone who's in the water business, all these manufacturing facilities are switching to aluminum even over plastic because it's basically a negligible expense. And sure, aluminum is much more recyclable than even plastic, but at what cost to the customer? I hate the word consumer. It's horrible. So I kind of refuse to use consumer as much as possible. So you're getting those microplastics, you're getting that heavy metal aluminum leaching into the water. And then the spiritual side of things, there's a lot of people who've done a lot of research who are then marked as pseudoscientists, but I've done empirical data testing in my own life, praying over water, blessing water, speaking life into the water, playing healing frequencies into the water. And I've noticed a vast difference in how I feel. And I'll leave that up to, what people decide. But through the YouTube channel, we're actually going to be doing data and research around this because not many people have.
Yeah.
And so I totally understand why I don't want to put something with a skull and crossbones, the most essential part of human life, other than God, in my opinion, is water. Why would I want to put death into my body? Why would I choose death when I can have life?
And not actual death, but with the energy of death and skull bones.
Chainsaw Massacre is one of their flavors.
Yep.
It's funny. It's hilarious. As someone who loves Kill Tony and loves all this, very inappropriate comedy, I get what they're doing, and their market positioning is fantastic. And maybe there's a Liquid Death and Liquid Life collaboration coming up in the future. We'll see. It won't be in an aluminum can. I can promise you that. I will never sell water. What?
Liquid purgatory? Just like the middle?
In between death and life. More like liquid humanity.
That makes sense.
So we'll see. But then again, it's like, if you like that branding, if you like that water, go for it. I'm not going to tell you it's wrong or right. I'm just displaying the information, putting it out there, and letting people make their own decisions.
Yeah.
Rather than coming at it from a point of knowing exactly what the right thing is to do. I just know in my life, I want life. Same with music. I love gangbanger trap music.
Yeah.
I love real trap shit. What you listen to, you become. What water you drink and put into your body, you become.
Do you know, and for people listening, do you know that, I think it was a study or just research done where they had a plant on this side of the classroom and a plant on that side of the classroom? Oh, shit. Okay. So they did the study in classrooms. I forget when I heard this years ago, but I've heard it a couple times. They put two of the same plants on a side of the classroom, and they spoke negative words into the water and fed it to the plant on the left side of the classroom. And then on this side of the classroom, they spoke positive words to the water and then fed the water to that plant. This one bloomed, and then the one that they spoke negatively to started dying.
Yeah.
And they did that study again and again.
Yeah.
And it's just like interesting. People don't think of it, but it's like water holds and maintains energy and vibrations
100%.
and stuff like that. And like people I know pray over it, people that I know talk to it and treat it well and right. And it makes up every living cell in your body.
Yep.
Like, it helps
over
it function.
70% of your cells water, depending on what your age is. And so the skeptics, I'm inherently a skeptic. If I see something out there, my first thought is, who's paying for this? What is this trying to sell me? So I come from it from there. And right under that, I'm a very spiritual person. I'm interested in how everything is light, frequency, energy. We are all manifestations of one consciousness, which we call God, which is one O away from good, right? The skeptic in me says, oh, well, on one side of that classroom, there was more of a draft and that plant wasn't getting sunlight. Sure. And so it's like reality. Whatever you want it to be, it will become. And so that research is based in Dr. Masaru Emoto's research. He had this project called the Water Consciousness Research in Japan, and he's dedicated his life to it. He recently passed away a number of years ago. Whole website and Instagram dedicated to his work, and he's labeled, I was consulting with ChatGPT yesterday about skeptics and the power of prayer over water, and Dr. Masaru's research came up, and he's proven to be a pseudoscientist, and his scientific experiments are not reproducible, and the scientific process is all about hypothesis, data collection, proving or disproving your hypothesis and then retesting. And so I understand that, but also it's like, what are the questions we're really asking? How are we observing these datas? Is the data actually observable? It goes much deeper than what a lot of very right-brained people can wrap their head around or want to wrap their head around, and coming from it from a much more holistic experience. What happens with you every day you wake up and you say, today you're dying. Scott, or Preston, your career, my career is dead. My relationships are dead.
That was me a month ago. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you're probably going to manifest that energy and tap into that energy. Yeah. If I wake up in the morning and I'm like, my career is giving me life and I'm giving it life. I'm speaking life, love, peace, harmony into my relationships and to my relationship with God and to all that I do. I think probably my day is going to go a lot better.
Yeah.
And that's why in AA, they're like, read 86 through 88 every morning, ask God to keep you sober, third step prayer, serenity prayer,
right?
The St. Francis prayer. They are conscious decisions. Why choose death when you can have life is not about liquid death. It's not about liquid life. It's about how we live our lives as humans. Because this earthly dimension is that of intense polarity, of black and white. And the reality, the truth often lies in the gray. Yeah.
And speaking of that, like intention, basically having had a kid, having had the family life that you had, how are you showing up? How do you want to show up for the child, for your wife?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of work has gone into it, and it's not perfect by any means. It's a journey. In some ways, my dad showed me some good things. In many ways, it was not the best role model and example, and so I've learned from a lot of other men in my life. And I don't know. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And so I'm grateful to be married to someone, and the mother of my child is someone who I very much trust, and we have communication and authenticity and intimacy in our relationship in order to actually be there and show up in a safe way for our child to have secure attachment. And so Jacqueline is always reminding me it's like, it's about us first, and then it's about the kid, because you can't show up for the kid if you're on different wavelengths, if you're on different pages. And any relationship has its challenges. It's hard sometimes. It's emotional. We want different things. We're different people. We come from different traumas, and we choose people who manifest that and recreate that in many ways. And it's a matter of becoming aware of that and choosing the death or the life. Do you want to keep doing the old thing, the old pattern, or do you want the new one? And in many ways, what we call in AA character defects, or in Christianity you call sins, falling short of what the ideal is. That's the definition of sin. I still choose that time and time again. I choose the flesh, the humanity, what the self-will, the selfishness wants. And that doesn't look like what culture oftentimes tells us, because it's pretty unique for each individual too. And then it's about having enough grace to meet that sin. And it says in the Bible, where sin abounds, grace abounds. Or where sin resides, grace abounds. And it's all about, even though we fall short, which we inherently will do, we decide, we make that decision. We made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understand Him, to continue on this spiritual journey and path. And will it ever be perfect? Will I ever be the perfect father? Will I ever be the perfect husband? No, because perfection is an ideal. It's something you strive towards. That's what Jesus represented, is perfection, the Son of God. And so I have a tenuous relationship with Christianity, but this idea of being in Christ consciousness, which is what Christian means. The Bible doesn't ever say Christian. It says in Christ. And Jesus' real name was Yeshua, and you talk to most Christians, they don't even know that. And his original language was Aramaic, not Greek or Latin. And a lot of people don't really even know that. So going many, many layers deeper into the spirituality of religion, which AA has kind of prepared me for. And that is the end of my tirade, I swear.
Again, excellent cult leader. Excellent.
Your podcast should be cult leader energy. You should have people.
CLE. The CLE pod.
CLE gang.
Hell yeah.
Well, no cults here. I'd rather play Marvel Rivals and work on my water company and make my art and raise my kiddos and have a family. And yeah, do that.
With the water company, how are you having time? Do you feel like you'll have time to make art? What's that relationship like? Plus also having Jacqueline, having
baby.
Blaze.
Yeah, having a baby, a newborn is like a new full-time job. So it's been a lot.
Yeah.
You know, I've just gone through different seasons of my life where I'm producing a lot of art. I'm an artist first and foremost. Right under that, I'm an entrepreneur. Warhol says the most beautiful form of art, or the best form of art, is making money. Have I made a bunch of money in my life up to this point off my art? Not really, but I've sold a lot of amazing art. I mean, yes, I have in the grand scale of artists, right?
Yeah.
But to create real generational wealth for my family is going to probably start with the water business and foray through the art. And the water is art to me. They're pretty inseparable, and creating a business is art. I went to school for entrepreneurship. There's so much creativity that happens in it, and it's super exciting. I'm creating all these neural pathways and just figuring out how to do something. I know how to make a painting.
Yeah.
I mean, I will never stop making art, and I want to have enough money where I can sponsor whatever crazy performance project I ever want to do again and not ever have to ask anyone else for money.
Yes, dude. Yeah.
So
Where did that, because I hear you say with such confidence, which I really admire, and I'm curious how you got it, is like, oh yeah, when I have generational wealth for my family, there seems to be like no fear, and that there seems to be no hesitation. It's just like, yeah, when this happens.
yeah, when you talk to like most successful artists or people, there's a sense of knowing. And then again, it comes to that decision, to make that decision that I'm going to be successful, to make that decision that I'm actually already successful, to make that decision that I'm already safe, provided for, abundant, rich, because we create that reality through which we perceive. And comes back to the death versus life thing. What do you want to do? Do you want to choose that poverty mindset? Because it is a mindset. And of course, some people are born into very challenging circumstances.
Yes.
Some people are born into very challenging circumstances and have billions of dollars. Some people are born into extremely loving homes and they don't have anything financially. We all have our own set of circumstances. No one has it perfect. As far as generational wealth goes, I just have a sense of knowing. My wife has a sense of knowing. We've made that decision for ourselves. It's a matter of patience and persistence and how that actually manifests itself and unfolds.
I fuck with that.
Yeah, I fuck with that too.
I fuck with that.
Playboy.
Sorry, I'm just looking at the beam. Have you dealt with like not having that mindset though?
Of course, every day, hour to hour sometimes.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's good for me to know, because I'm looking at you being like, oh yeah, he's thinking this way constantly throughout the day, because I hear you say that.
I was programmed with a scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
I was programmed with a lack mentality. That was my programming because of the trauma that was passed down to my father's generation from his father, who fought in the war and came from nothing. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so we pass that down to our children. And generational wealth and abundance doesn't necessarily have to be financial either. It can be emotional. It can be spiritual. We always think about abundance and money, and money isn't inherently a good or bad thing. Money is energy, just like water. It's a frequency. When you're tapped into it, it's coming. When I'm so focused on it not coming and not making it, then it probably isn't. And that is my biggest challenge, especially as someone who's relied so heavily for 6 years. I've been a full-time artist, have negative money, not be able to pay rent, facing eviction, and still walking through all that trial and tribulation. And I'm always taken care of. I'm always provided for. I had enough money for 1 month of rent yesterday. And then literally like clockwork, God's like, all right, here you go. Like this, I aligned this person in your life over 10 years ago to pay you this amount of money to pay your rent for this next month for this commission that has been in the works for 4 months.
Yeah.
And it just, and then next week I make the decision that I don't have faith actually. And that I'm actually not successful and I'm never going to make it. And everything I touch isn't worth doing. And then within a few hours, I'm getting better and better. It's like working out, training myself to be like, no, that's not the reality I actually want for me and my family.
Because it's so funny. I've been full-time freelance artist, whatever, for 9 years now. Every single month, I'm like, fuck, I'm not going to make it.
Yep.
Now there has been, past couple of years have been a lot better, which is great. Even then, there still comes a time and a point where I'm like, maybe this isn't worth it.
Yep.
Maybe I should just like go get something else, get some security, some safety. And every single month, there always is something providing me with something that I need help with, putting a person in my life. I don't know, it's obviously a higher power that I can't understand. I don't believe in Jesus Christ, so it's not that. But there is something that just keeps the faith, and it's so interesting how easily I am to forget that.
Yeah.
That ism, that incredibly short memory, everything. When it is in my life, like everything is abundant. Everything. But that mindset of just scarcity, scaredness, fear, anxiety, mostly just scarcity. And my parents, I got it from my parents. My parents got it from their parents. It was interesting. My dad was very abundant feeling. He's like, we'll get that. Like, oh, go pay for that. Go have fun with that. And I really love that part. My mom was more scarce. She was like, we don't have money, blah, blah, blah. Like, we need to save. You can't be doing this. You can't be spending money on that. And I went to go buy a new computer, like an investment for my own self, like the maxed out Mac M4 Max Pro Ultra. And I heard my dad's voice in my head because I was like going to go for one of the smaller, more affordable options. I just heard my dad's voice come in and be like, get it, I'll take care of it. And I was like, okay. Because my dad was amazing in many ways. He was not great in many other ways, but he always was like, kid, if you want to do something, I will help you and you will get the best. Like, we will get the best for you. Like, when I was 8, I was doing magic, like fucking playing around, and he's like, no, we're not going to get you the cheap stuff. We're going to get you the expensive stuff. And this is when my family owned a failing business, $100,000 in debt by a lot. And we were like needing to borrow money from people and families to like keep rent going and keep a business afloat and keep food on the table. And still at that point when he had nothing, he was still like, we're going to get you the best. Same with like, he bought my first camera and helped me out with that. And that took me to where I am today. And so I always, has it made me a little bit frivolous with money? Yes. Which can be worked on, but it's a decent mindset to have that faith that things will always come in the right time when needed.
Practice,
dude.
Well, come be frivolous at my studio and buy a bunch of art, Scott.
Sir, I'm not there yet. Eventually. I would like a nice income one day where I can buy art. If you need to store art here,
Yeah.
would love to have it in the background,
Yeah.
and I can store it here for you. But one of these days,
One of these
I
days.
would love to.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Scotty.
Thank you, sir.
Wagwan, one love.
One love.
Peace up.